Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Thoughtful Talent Show. I'm Jen Werner of Jen Werner Coaching.
And I'm Chad Ahern of Talent Teams Consulting. And today we have two amazing other coaches joining us to talk about adaptability, our CliftonStrengths for this week. I have the privilege of introducing Marisol von Appen. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Marisol.
Yes, very well.
She is a fellow Eat to Grow and Gallup-Certified strengths coach with a background in mediation and conflict management. She, along with her wife, Anya, and dog, Sammy, own and run their company, Compass. I hope I'm saying with the German, from their home in Bielefeld, Germany. Bielefeld, excuse me.
It's okay.
She and Anya help leaders and teams focus on the people factor of their businesses using a fun and inspirational approach. They coach their clients to master leadership and teamwork principles. Marisol's background in the shipping industry, which I didn't even know about until our pre-show yesterday, as well as knowledge in the food-focused television, even working for the Food Network at one point, helps her bring some very unique perspectives to her work. So thank you and welcome, Marisol.
Thanks for having me, Chad and Jen.
Thank you. Welcome, Marisol. So good to have you. And it's my honor to introduce to you to our second guest, Josh Winter. So Josh is also a fellow Eat to Grow and Gallup certified coach. He's really unique in this one because I don't think we've ever had a guest on like him before. He is a 32-year student of the fire service from Los Angeles City. He was a fire explorer. He was a combat medic and an Army firefighter for the U.S. Army. He also volunteered with multinational agencies as a firefighter in Camp Humphreys in South Korea. And he held a paid position with NATO in the fire department in the Netherlands. So I feel like he's just been all over the place. Currently, he's in Colorado Springs, Colorado, with the fire department there. He works in the training department, is responsible for officer development. So as a strengths coach, and now with Eat to Grow, I'm like, and his adaptability, I feel like this is just such we have such a treat to have him here. And you both have such diverse backgrounds. I'm super excited to share you with our audience. So welcome, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Jen, Chad, Marisol. Happy to be here with all of you. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to this.
Great. So as Chad alluded to, we invited our guests today to talk about the CliftonStrengths talent theme of adaptability. Before we jump in, let's hear from our guests. Marisol, tell me where this falls for you in your top 5.
Number 2, it is.
Right. Awesome. Number 2. And Josh, for you?
And number 3 for me.
Oh, right. Right in the middle of that top 5. That's going to be good.
Absolutely. It's a sweet spot in the top 5. I like
the sweet spot. Absolutely. Okay, great. So with that, I would like to have Chad share with us the Gallup description for adaptability.
Yeah, so sure. So Gallup defines the adaptability talent theme as follows. People exceptionally talented in the adaptability theme prefer to go with the flow. They tend to be now people who take things as they come and discover the future one day at a time. So I think that's going to be a really great setup for the conversation we're going to have today. We had just for our audience, we had a phenomenal pre-show with these two, and I'm really looking forward to the energy that they brought yesterday and have it come over here into our live show. I want to start us off with the question that we always ask our guests, just so that listeners, especially those that might be first learning about their CliftonStrengths themes and this theme in particular, how does it show up in your lives? What behaviors, what actions does this adaptability theme kind of inspire in you, or how does it play out in your life? So that people can start to recognize it maybe in themselves or in those closest to them. And Marisol, I'd love to be able to start with you.
Hey, thanks a lot. How does adaptability show up for me? I think it is one of my it is actually one of my favorite themes that I have in my top 5. And what it does for me, it's very flexible. Sort of, I'm with all the good and the bad that comes with it. I am very good in reacting to situations as they come up. If people have stuff coming up or situations change or whatever, I don't stay long pondering about why and how and so on. I just sort of react to this and make sure that people around me, the people that I'm surrounded with, sort of also don't hesitate too long to manage the situation. I think that's the one thing. And yeah, and as you said, go with the flow. It's really what I think of in the morning, what can happen today, and in the evening, the day was completely different. So that's what it does for me.
Okay. Josh, would you like to add or expand upon that, or maybe how it's different? How does it show up for you?
Well, it's funny. I almost want to say ditto, Marisol said, because there's a lot of similarities there. The interesting thing about my adaptability, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, is that it also sits right next to consistency, which consistency is my number 2, adaptability is my number 3. But when I look specifically at that adaptability theme, it positively impacts my life, and sometimes it negatively impacts my life. Positively, in a work environment, it's really great. It's a great strength for me to have. Working for the fire service, being involved in the fire service for 30 plus years, our days are never the same. We come in, which is one of the great things about being a firefighter, right? You come in the morning and we have no idea what our day is going to look like. So what I try to do and what we try to do is we try to make these very set plans for what we want our day to look like. But all it takes is that one 911 call to come in, the little red light goes off for us, a tone goes off, and our day completely changes. We could be gone for, 5 minutes getting returned back to the station, or we could be gone for the entire shift, and anything in between. So being adaptable really plays into that. I think somebody that is not very adaptable can sometimes struggle with that part of the fire service, where you don't have, it's almost like you have a loss of control of your day that you just have to give in. Yeah. And so I think being adaptable allows me to give in, hopefully at the right time. And I think we'll probably get into some of the negative sides.
Yeah, we're definitely going to take you to the positives and negatives in a second. I'm just more curious about sort of some of the behaviors or tendencies that you tend to have, just as you go through life, kind of how this theme has shown up. I think one of the things that I want to bring back up from the pre-show that we had with you that I found fascinating is what you had talked about in terms of being a crammer. And I didn't know if you maybe wanted to elaborate on that. I don't want to try to speak for you. My adaptability, by the way, for our listeners and for anybody watching this, is 29. So I'm going to learn a ton today. I'm thrilled to understand this theme a little bit more through Marisol and Josh. But I'd love to understand some of these behaviors that show up. Absolutely.
So let me jump on that, and then I bet you Marisol is going to be able to kind of add to what I'm going to say. But so being a crammer, it's kind of like when you're a kid growing up and you go to school and you got a test coming up. I was never the one that started studying 2 weeks before, but the night before it would be like, oh, I got this test I've got to do well on tomorrow. So let me start putting the effort in right now. So really where I spend a lot of my time is kind of like what the Gallup description said, was in that moment of looking at, okay, where am I at right now? What do I need to accomplish right now? And then just flexing my day to manage the here and the now, opposed to looking ahead to the future. So whether it be a written test or, let's say, being on a podcast, whatever that looks like, our preparation for it usually happens pretty close to last minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree to that. I would say everything else is basically, for me, it's like wasted time. I had this today, for example. There was this call that I had in the afternoon, actually scheduled, And this morning I started thinking about it and what I have to concentrate on, and then it was postponed. So I think when you just said something, Josh, about the last minute things in tests and so on, same here. I think it's we're very good at short-term memory. If I prepare something like 2 weeks ago or something, it's just gone. I have to look at it again anyway. For me, preparation, also we do lots of workshops and so on. Of course, I do thinking about it before. It's not that I like, tomorrow I have a workshop and I don't care about it before, but I think about it and so on. But really to sit down and really concentrate and really make something out of it that I want to use tomorrow, that is, it's better if I do it sort of last minute. Then, of course, it's a problem if like the computer breaks down or the printer or these things, yeah? But apart from that, but then again, with adaptability, we somehow always manage to find a solution. Yeah.
That was pretty spot on, Marisol, for me as well.
And I love hearing this from both of you, as Chad shared that his is pretty low. Mine is actually number 7, so it's not terribly low, but like Josh, it follows consistency. So I always struggled with understanding like how this was a relationship building theme versus an executing theme, because we're talking a lot about how we get things done. So do either of you or both of you want to share, I'll start with Josh this time, about the ways that that really plays to your relationships as far as like other people in your life and feeling this relationship kind of piece to adaptability?
Right. Yeah. So that one can be somewhat of a struggle for me because of the consistency theme that sits next to it. Because one of the first things that people typically say about me is, "Oh, you're so easygoing. You get along with everybody. You don't stress about a lot of things." But that is the adaptable side, right? That's the adaptability side. People see that. A lot of times when people get to know me on a deeper level, then they see that there is a lot of more intense passion or motivation or need for a level of consistency in certain areas of my life. But the adaptability side in a relationship building theme, it usually comes out as being an easygoing person that's easy to get along with. And usually that is because, for an example, if we're with a group and it's like, "Hey, where do you guys want to go to lunch?" It's like, I could go 10 different places, right? I don't have a strong opinion one way or another. We can have, we can go out to sushi, or we can have, some, grilled cheese sandwich, whatever that is. So.
Awesome. Marisol, the same question to you. How do you see that adaptability with the relationship?
Yeah, same thing. I think I also, for a very long time, thought it was wondering about why is it in the executing domain and not why is it not in the executing domain, but in the relationship building. And what I figured then, the more I got into that, was really it's adapting really to the needs and the situations of other people, making other people feel comfortable, being able to react and to respond to what is just happening right there and then. So it plays out to me like, I don't know, if we do, for example, trainings or workshops and so on, and there's a plan and we sort of have a schedule, and then things come up, then I don't even think about, does it just fit into the plan? I just sort of react and respond to what is just out there. And that is something that, and it's always about making the other person feel comfortable, feel safe, feel seen, feel heard, and also giving a way to move forward if there are sort of problems coming up. And I think that's an important part of it. And also the easygoing part, I think, that Josh, you mentioned, that is what people say about me also. And I think what comes into that is this, what I also know about other people with adaptabilities is sort of more of a non-judgmental attitude. You just sort of accept the person as she or he is in that situation. Not a lot of judgment, not a lot of expectations about how things should be. And that makes it, I think, easy for people to be around us, and us to be sort of. And by the way, if regarding to food, Josh, I would say I'm easygoing, but in the end, a maximizer would then say, but I want to have the best and the closest by food.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I usually look at like, okay, how much is this going to cost?
Right. So-
Chad,
so
sorry, I wanted to jump in there really
Yeah,
quickly.
no, go ahead. You're our guest. I'll have you speak, and then I just want to share an observation I was having between what both of you had just shared. But I want your additional thoughts first.
Yeah. And really what Marisol said, it really resonated with me a lot about people, because I feel the same way. I like to say non-judgmental, but then I realize it's like we judge every single day, right? That's kind of what keeps us safe in this world. But, you know, I think it allows me to really judge for the positive, to really look for the best in people and look at, you know, what does this person bring to the table, which really ties into the whole concept of Gallup and CliftonStrengths, right?
Yeah. The observation I was going to share, first of all, thank you very much, Josh. The observation I was going to share was that we started off, you know, we'd asked about sort of how this shows up in your lives. And you talked a lot about your day and, you know, figuring out what was going to happen. And I think that's where a lot of people start to wonder, you know, well, why is this not in executing? Because it's adapting to the day. It's, you know, the fire calls and so forth. And then this beautiful switch both of you just sort of highlighted, which is the impetus is the people around you. It's, oh, this person needs something from me, so I need to adapt my day. But the driver, the impetus is the people. And so I think that's a really great observation for people to be aware of when particularly if they're first learning about this. Okay, this is why it's a little bit more relationship heavy. It has a follow-on effect of executing, but the driver is the relationship. So I think I really appreciate you both highlighting that, because I think that's a big learning for me. I've always wondered about this adaptability theme being a relationship, because everybody I've ever coached, it's all about their day or how they flex, or, you know, what they do or not, you know, not prepare and, you know, do the cram thing or, you know, upend their day for others. So thank you very much. I just wanted to highlight that.
For me, it's easy because I have Arranger as executing theme right there. So it's like it sort of melds into each other. Yeah.
I also have Arranger's number 7 for me. So
okay.
play together. Really, one of the challenges for me is I have to really understand, like when it comes to the people side of it, it's like, okay, am I looking at the big picture? Am I like at my job, am I looking at doing this for the community, right? That's where we have to start, is doing it for the community first. But then in a leadership role, then it's like, well, I do have people within my team that I have to make sure that I'm accommodating them. And then there's also that you've got to be able to manage yourself as well. And sometimes, you know, you have to take care of your own problems, issues, things that come up, so that you can then go out and help, you know, the people that are working for you or your teammates or the community.
Yeah.
That's a great lead in into my next question. So I want to immediately flip this. We're going to talk about how this theme can potentially negatively impact your life or work. Like both of you have already kind of alluded to a couple of little things. So being that we started with Marisol on the last question, I'm going to start with Josh on this one. We want to know, like, just like the down and dirty, where does this one get in your way, or what are some negative impacts that we know all of the strengths can have if we're coming on too strong, or maybe just completely ignoring them? What are some of those for you?
Yeah,
the
vulnerable side, right? You know, for me, especially within relationships, I think the way that I've seen it play out negatively is I can appear wishy-washy, and you know, somebody might say, hey, we've got this project to do. And I might say, okay, let's start doing it this way. And somebody might have an idea that is just as good or maybe better than mine. And I can look at that and go, okay, you know what, that's a great idea. Let's go ahead and do it that way. And a lot of times in a leadership role, instead of having that strong command presence and saying, no, this is what we're doing, it can come off as being indecisive or being wishy-washy. And so it's something that I really need to pay attention to. And a lot of that comes out with really knowing my team. Am I working with people that have been doing this job for 20 years or have experience in whatever that task is, or is it somebody that's brand new? And then obviously there's different sides to that too, right? It's like somebody brand new, like maybe we should let them fail in an effort to allow them to grow. And so, and I'm sure you can probably see the adaptability coming out right now. I can start talking about it, and I can go, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and so,
It's either but or and.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for me, it's I really need to just know, like, okay, is this the time for me to be adaptable, or is it the time for me to have, for lack of a better words, a strong command presence and just say, this is what we're doing and this is how it's going to be done.
Yeah, so good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Marisol, for you,
I've been thinking of two things. The one thing is, of course, being in the here and now means if I don't do whatever comes up right here and now, but I postpone it till I can do it tomorrow or the day after or next week, it disappears out of my mind and I forget. So I talk to somebody, we have like this great idea. I say, I'm going to write you a proposal. I'm all excited. Then I adapt to 2-3 other things that come up. And then 3 days later, I think, shit, I just completely forgot about this. I have to do it now. And if I don't do it now, so this is something that is sort of a downside. And also, I would always say the most sort of keeping focus is a big challenge for me. And also, especially in working with others, because I have no problem and sort of doing the last minute thing and the printer doesn't work. I can come up with some kind of solution, but as soon as other people are involved, like for example, my wife, who has consistency in her top 5 and maximizer also in her top 5, and it's a complete mystery to her how I can do this, then it gets difficult. Like for me, it's no problem preparing stuff the day before. She, in order to perform good, needs at least like 3 days sort of to know where we're going at. So that is something that that I have been working and developing on the last years, but it is something that that is not easy for me.
Yeah.
Marisol,
And I'm so glad you brought that up. Sorry, Chad, I want to highlight that. Like I love hearing your understanding of realizing that when working with someone else, you maybe are not able to be as adaptable as you would normally be, that you might have to do a little bit more pre-planning in order to make sure that that person is comfortable being an individual contributor. I completely understand that motivation and where that comes from too. So thank you for sharing that piece of it. Chad?
And that actually ties right into what I wanted to bring back up. You made a beautiful comment yesterday in our pre-show, and it has to do with relating to other people. You had mentioned a challenge around sort of not taking a stand or not being seen as holding some really solid opinions. I'm just wondering if you could highlight that a little bit, because I found that really beautiful to understand. I'm just thinking some of our listeners might also benefit from that same learning.
Yeah. So the adaptability or the flexibility is also like you have an argument for something and that makes a lot of sense. And I say, yeah, that I can completely agree with that. Let's do it that way. Or you're completely right in what you think. And then somebody else comes with other great arguments and argues for something completely different or the opposite. And that also makes sense to me. And that is something that if I'm not myself sort of really deeply informed about something, then I do tend to sort of like not have an opinion, not really say how would you decide? So I don't know. And then I was thinking about this, and I think, why do we always have to have an opinion to everything, even if we have no idea what we are talking about? Yeah. It's always this, what do you think? Are you for something or against something? Are you? So, and I said, I cannot say that, because everybody has good arguments, and I need more time and so on to really have an own opinion. And sometimes, why do I have to have an opinion to everything? I don't.
And I believe the point that you also highlighted yesterday was that can often have a negative impact, because then it sort of annoys other people of,
Yeah,
Right.
are you on my side or not?
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
And,
yeah,
and,
okay.
and that is why, for example, I have a very, I think you say heterogeneous, sort of a diverse is a better word, a diverse group of friends, and my family is very sort of, there's all sorts of different personalities and characters. And I basically get along with everybody. And sometimes you have this thing, you have like a birthday party, and then it's like, I know these people will not get along with each other, but you know what? I don't care. It's like adapt, get along. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
I
Well,
appreciate you
now-
bringing that back up. I know
Yeah.
I teed that up, but I thought it was a really interesting learning from our pre-show that I wanted to make sure got onto our live show.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah.
So now let's flip this, because now we've talked about those dark sides. Let's talk about like the ways that this theme has just benefited your life, your work, how you feel like it leads to your success. Marisol, I'm going to start with you this time.
Well, how does it lead to my success? I think my life has been a very sort of it's like not the straight course. Nobody will be very surprised by this sort of. I go this way and I want to be that, and I'm going to just sort of follow course. I have done a lot of curves and different things. I've been in different industries. I've sort of been in different countries and all this. So this is something that has always given me energy. I like that a lot. It has exposed me to many different influences, and also this liking to learn new things and adapting to different circumstances and environments. It has, I mean, we always have this discussion about nature or what is it?
Nurture.
Nature, nurture. So am I born with adaptability, or has my life circumstances enhanced this? I lost my mother very early when I was 8 years old, and that, of course, was a situation where I, in hindsight, I managed to adapt quite well with this, and even if it was a hard time and so on, but I've done a lot of work on it. So, and this has basically given me also tools and strengths to navigate through life. So this is something I think that has turned up, and also having worked with different people in different situations, also career changes. Yeah, I've been in the shipping. I've done food television. I've done also, and then I started the coaching business and so on. And it's like, yeah, it's something that gives me energy, and that I've been successful in all these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
What I heard you say yesterday that I want to highlight there, two little things, is that the changes actually feed you and give you energy, and that every change is a forward momentum, that you don't ever think of it as a step back. So
Exactly.
I thought that was really amazing. A really positive outlook on like change and how things happen. But you both had, kind of that whole aura around you when we talked about change. The other one that really hit me was this like relief from having to have a vision or have a 5-year plan. That struck me really deeply, because that's always been something really difficult for me. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Wow, can you ask me what I'm doing 5 years from now? It depends on what's happening next. So I just thought that was really great that you were able to share that with us in the pre-show. Do you want to add anything to that, like kind of the feeling?
I think the older I get, the more I learn to love my adaptability, and the people around me start sort of have more of an envy, because like in early years, it's like, what is she doing? Why is she changing things again? Yeah. It's like I was always like a little bit the paradise bird or something. Yeah, it's like when she's doing something different again. So and now it's like I wish I could do that. So that's the one thing. And of course, what you just said, Jen, I have always, especially since I went into the coaching business and so on, where it's a lot about what's your goal, where do you want to go, what do you be in 7 years, and it always stressed me out, and I always being adaptable, I just sort of invented stuff. Yeah,
Made
that
it up.
I made it up there. But then when I learned Gallup, I did my assessment 5 years ago, and when I found out that I have adaptability and what that means, and that is exactly it's about the power of the here and now, and it's not about thinking what is tomorrow or the day after. That sort of completely relieved me. Yeah, I said, okay, I'm done with that. I'm done with vision making. I'll have a vision for today and for tomorrow, and you know what? I'm 57 years old now, and I got where I got without having a vision. So
Love it.
and I like
love
where
it.
I am.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Josh, I know that some of these have the same answers for you, but I want to hear how this works. This has been such a success for you in your life.
Yeah, so I like what you brought up, Jen, is, kind of what charges your batteries. And change does charge my batteries. Even if we go back a couple of years to COVID, when COVID first started, it wasn't upsetting to me. It was, I know it was upsetting to a lot of people, but the concept, the idea of change, like this massive change, this shift was about to happen, to me it was motivating, and it was something like, okay, like let's embrace this, let's step into this and see like what good can come out of it, opposed to what are the negative things that we're going to have to deal with. But it's funny also what Marisol said was the idea of, are we born with this? Did we grow up with this? How have our lives impacted this? I grew up, my dad was also military. So I spent the first, 17 years of my life, we moved every 2 years. We never lived anywhere longer than 3 years. And so whether that fed that adaptability or, added to, it was something that it was never really difficult for me. It was, one day I would come home from school and my parents would say, we're moving to Japan. And it was like, okay, we're moving to Japan. That's exciting. The one thing my parents did at the time was we always had this, my mom had this cross stitch that she hung right when you walked in the door that said, home is where the Navy sends you. So there was always, but then after that, I joined the military, and I continued to move. And now that I've been here, I've been on this job for 21 years. This is the longest I've ever been in one place, in one town, doing one job. But even throughout my career here, I've worked at different fire stations. I've worked in line fire station positions. Right now, I work in an office staff position in the training division, and the change is motivating to me. And so I really enjoy the idea of something new, and I guess that feeds me and it motivates me.
Yeah.
Josh, may I ask you a question? Do you have siblings?
I do. I have an older sister and I have a younger sister, so I'm right in the middle.
Have they also adapted so well to this? Because my experience of other families of sort of that kind of either diplomats or people that there's always some that can adapt to this easier and get along easier with this change thing, and others that really always struggle.
It's a really interesting question. I have an older sister who earlier in her life, she moved around a lot. And she is, if she hears this, she's going to be upset. I think she's 52 now. Now she's settled down. She's been in the same place for a long time. And she's really settled into, the life that she's living now. My younger sister has moved a lot. She married somebody that works in the business field, and they've moved every few years. And but I can see, from kind of looking at both of them, I think they both have had some struggles in their life with where do we land? Where is home? What is all this?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. One more thing I wanted to bring up, and it's on that relationship side again, is you both shared with us in the pre-show, and I'm going to just throw it out there, and then I want you two to respond. It's hard to shock you. You're not judgmental. And you also, there's this response, why aren't you mad about this? So what Who wants to go first? Josh?
I'll go because I get that in my home life. For my wife, I get that every once in a while, where something will come up and my reaction to it will be, I would say, hopefully calm and more of, okay, how are we gonna, like, let's start fixing this. And she's asked me in the past, she's like, aren't you upset about this? And I'm like, well, I mean, I could be, but I'm not. Like, I'm more concerned about how we're going to fix this problem, or, what this issue is. Like, how are we going to, restore this? But I also have restorative in my top 5 as well. And so I'm not sure if it's the adaptability or the restorative that makes me go down that path first of, okay, let's fix the problem before we react to it. But then I'd also say, I believe that my job, the profession that I've been, has also taught me to not overreact. We walk into people's worst days and we usually walk into chaos. And our job is to, for lack of better words, calm that chaos that's there. That is kind of how the adaptability also comes out for me.
Yeah. Marisol, I want to give you a chance, but I also want to highlight a phrase, Josh, that you used yesterday that I thought was really interesting. And we talked a little bit about how this sort of bleeds over into, I think it's harmony, but sort of the, how do you want me to respond to this? Right. It's not a blow up reaction, because you said you're pretty easygoing, but it's also of, you can tell the other person has some sort of invested interest. And we were talking about just holding strong opinions before. And your response was, well, I really don't have a take. Well, how do you want me to respond? Almost inviting that. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but just, it was a fascinating thought process for me to contemplate that.
No, I do. I think that a lot of that might come with harmony, which sits at number 1 for me.
Okay.
I feel like my opinion of myself is that I'm really good at reading people. And so a lot of times I need to step back and really kind of understand where that person's at and then put myself in that same place. If somebody's upset, then, okay, let me be there with you. Let me sit in that moment with you and be upset with you. But sometimes I miss it. And so that conversation I might have at home, with, let's say, my wife, is, okay, right now, where do you want me to be? Do you just want me to listen to you? Would you appreciate it more if I was upset about this? Where would you want me to be? Because I can probably get into that place. But I think that's the harmony coming out, is going, okay, let me get there with you. Like, let me meet you there, and then let's work through this.
So adapting to the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Marisol, did you have anything to add to Jen's original prompt of not blowing up or
not blowing up, I would say, is the same. I don't really easily blow up. This is also something that also in my relationships, it's like getting into fights with me is not very easy. But what you just mentioned, Jan, was this the nothing can shock me or us. This is something that I in my life and also in my coaching experience, where you just get to hear all sorts of stories of all sorts of things. I mean, I come from life coaching, couples coaching, and the stuff that you hear there sometimes is just, it's at least some things that you say, okay, that's interesting. And also, people also in the business, if we do leadership coaching and so on, in the one-to-one, people really open up and sometimes just share secrets where you could also think, okay, too much information here, but it's like nothing. There's nothing that the other person will, even if I maybe think, that's sort of, there's no reaction from my part, because it's like I take it all in as an interesting information about that person, those circumstances, and this sort of deep, non-judgmental, and I know that we always judge, but it's more like we filter things about how to understand them. But what I mean with non-judgmental is like there's not this moral judgment there. That this is something is right or wrong. Sure. Yeah, for me, it's a very the right and wrong discussion is something that I despise, because in my world there's no right or wrong. like 100% thing that you can do that way.
Wow.
Those are
great.
all great points.
So deep. Yeah.
So deep. We could probably spend another hour talking about positive and negatives, but I want to keep us moving along. Just thinking about some other ways that we can understand this theme. As coaches, we all understand that our talent themes are never working in silos, right? It's not just that we bring our adaptability or just bring our harmony to situations. So I'm curious, this is sort of a two-part question, and we'll tackle each part on its own. I'm curious, as you think about, and we've already started to highlight some of them, but what talents do you feel sort of add to the success or your ability to apply your adaptability theme for the benefit of yourself or others? So which ones do you like to pair with your adaptability to really achieve that success? And Josh, I'm going to start with you.
I'd love to go first on this one. And really, I think I want to tie it to my profession, to being a firefighter. And I mentioned this yesterday, doing this job for a long time, it took me a while. It took me years to figure out really how to explain to people what we do. And really, it's very simple. We help people solve problems, right? This whole job is about people. Somebody calls 911 and they have a problem, and we go there and we fix it, or we help them with it. And so the adaptability theme, and I think I have restorative, which is right behind, which is number 4 behind adaptability. And I think those two play well together within this profession. We walk into situations that we usually have very little situational awareness of, we have very little control of. And what we have to do is we have to start solving problems. We have to start restoring the situation. So those two themes play very well together. And, within that, there's always more than one way to fix the problem, right? And so what we try to do is we try to come up with multiple plans, come up with a plan A, B, C, D, E, however many we can come up with. So having a plan A is, okay, let's start our plan A. And then however that's, the situation reacts to that, then we can either switch to a plan B or continue down that path. And so it does mean that, within our profession, we have to be highly adaptable and be able to think of multiple ways to solve a problem. So I think, professionally, that adaptability and restorative really work well together for me.
You talked a lot about your profession. Would you go to a different combo or think about a different theme in terms of family life or community life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I could look at my family life and the adaptability and restorative might not be the best because, kind of going back to my relationship with my wife, there's times where if she has an issue and she starts explaining it to me, I start trying to fix the problem. And I have 4 different ways to do it. And she goes, look, I don't want you to fix the problem. I want you to hear about the problem. So that can get in the way in my personal life. But if I go back to my number 1, which is harmony, harmony to me, having harmony is like being a mediator, right? Like to be able to find middle ground and being adaptable and finding middle ground. It really helps in I think my personal relationships world, to really understand kind of what Marisol said earlier is really understanding people. With my harmony, it does make me want to listen a little bit longer and really understand where that person's coming from before I really engage with them or get to know them. And so I think harmony and adaptability play well in my personal life.
Nice. Marisol, what themes do you love to add to adaptability, season your adaptability with?
Well, I would say for me, it's definitely the maximizer, which is on 1 for me. So that allows me to not always react sort of right away, but also think about, okay, what is really the best way we can do this here? And especially maybe also the most effective one. sort of effective and smart, not too much extra effort that is not worth it. So that's something that I would say helps me, and also my strategic thinking themes that are all in 6 to 10. So it's ideation, it's intellection, and it's input. Sort of having this resource of different ideas and different approaches to do things, and I think that in combination helps to bring a little bit of structure into the adaptability sometimes.
Nice. All right. I love it, and I think that our listeners will like hearing that, you know, both of you go to different themes to do slightly different things, but that they are not working, you know, in silo. That I think those are some beautiful demonstrations of how our themes can work together in slightly different ways. And just for our listeners, you don't have to have any of the themes that they've just highlighted to make adaptability work. This is just 2 examples of how these two have chosen to pair the themes that they have in their top 5 or top 10 for their success. So I just wanted to put that sort of disclaimer out there for our listeners, so they don't freak out that, oh, I don't have those, so I can't do anything with adaptability. That's not the case we're trying to make. The second part of my question was, you know, just thinking about sort of theme dynamics. Are there, you know, we've talked a little bit about adaptability going kind of down its rabbit hole of being too wishy-washy or not making a decision or not having an opinion. There are plenty of other ways that adaptability can probably go kind of down its own rabbit hole. I'm wondering if there's a theme or a set of themes that you lean on to pull yourself out of that rabbit hole. So to kind of not so much rein in or control adaptability, because we want to use it to the best way, but we also don't want to let it run amok. So what themes help you stay out of the muck? And Marisol, I'm going to start with you this time, because I gave Josh the benefit of going last time. So
yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I think for me it's the arranger, that makes me sort of think of, okay, what resources do I actually have? Yeah, and how can I arrange them, organize them? What other things can I do? Maybe I can also sort of have other people think about situations, about solutions, and so on. Yeah. So to get me out of this completely, yes, submitting myself to the needs of others. Yeah, so that I think would be one. Would be one thing. Everything's still fine. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're good.
You're good.
I need to put this away. So, and the other one I would say is also the connectedness. Helping me if I sort of get lost in adapting to everything and everybody. Thinking, okay, it's all things happen for a reason. Not everybody has to be saved from things. What you, Josh, said earlier, sometimes not helping, sometimes not reacting is helps that person also. And trusting in, yeah, it's not everything needs to be adapted to, because the things also change. And if you react all the time, then that's also it costs a lot of energy. So I think the connectedness, this deep trust in that things somehow happen for a reason, that helps me get out of there.
Nice. Josh, same question to you. What pulls you out of the adaptability going way too far?
Yeah, I don't have to reach too far. I think I reached down to my number 9 and my number 10, which are responsibility and deliberative. And I think that deliberative theme plays into it a little bit, where I can go, okay, I need to be very specific about how I'm going to go about, either bringing myself out of the rabbit hole, or what this task is, or not being as wishy-washy, or being better at making decisions. Because I said that yesterday. I've had a close friend of mine at one point in my career. I asked him how I was doing as a leader. And he said, well, my opinion is you are scared to make decisions. And I went, okay, that's very interesting. As much as that hard to hear, I can look into my top 10 and go, I can understand why somebody would think that. So I need to flex some of my other ones to make sure that I'm not perceived as somebody who's has difficulty making decisions. So being more deliberative about things, but also more so having responsibility. Responsibility is actually very draining on me. Being high in responsibility, it can help me in things, and it can also negatively impact. I might have too much responsibility at work, and then that takes away from my family, or vice versa. So I need to pay attention to that one. But when I go down that adaptability rabbit hole, I need to look back and go, okay, I do have very specific responsibilities, and whether I've had those made clear from maybe my boss, and had my boss set clear expectations, or set timeframes or guidelines and say, this is how I need you to do it, then I can really lean into that responsibility theme and go, okay, I've got a responsibility to make this happen now. And so that'll pull me up out of that adaptability rabbit hole.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd like to add this idea of that maximizer also, sort of what are we going to? What's the goal? Yeah. What's the direction? And is this helping to get there? Yeah. So that I think helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the goal, having a goal.
Yeah, those are great answers, because with me, with achiever and activator in my top 5, and then having adaptability at 7, if you just put stuff in front of me, I'll do it. I might not be getting anywhere near the goal at this point, because I'm just doing all the things because I'm happy to be doing. So I think that's a great point you guys just highlighted. Thank you so much for that. I want to take us into where we normally go, and I if we don't have any differences, that's okay. But Chad and I like to talk about clients that we've experienced that also have this theme, and maybe some ways it's shown up differently. I don't have any personal other examples that are different really than what I've seen in Josh and Marisol. But Chad, I know you had one recently with a client. Do you want to share what you shared with us in the pre-show?
Yes. So I just had one, and it strikes on a lot of the things we've already talked about of bending over backwards for people. So this particular coaching client had empathy as number 1, harmony is number 2, and adaptability is number 5. And so it was I can sense what's going on with others. I want to be responsive to them. I don't want to rock the boat. So if they make a request of me, my harmony, their harmony was kicking in, and being very practical about it. But then also their adaptability was, let's make it their solution. Let's invest my time in them, not so much in myself. And so there was this real sense of instability. A lot of her calendar was being sort of chewed up by others, and that was causing some issues for her. And so this person, after some coaching, we realized that she also has an election as number 4. So having time to herself was really something that was missing, and thus impacting her ability to perform at her best, particularly as a frontline leader. And so realizing that balance, kind of like we were just talking about, of pulling that adaptability back and setting a little bit more structure, especially some time for herself, was a really important step. And so I just offer that as something that, we were just talking about, sort of that responsibility or having some guidelines. That can be really helpful to keep adaptability in kind of its Goldilocks zone of, yes, you can be adaptable. Yes, you can be responsive to people that when they really need you, but also make sure you're taking care of yourself. It's kind of that old adage of, put your own oxygen mask on first. Here I am talking to a firefighter, put your own oxygen mask on first before trying to attempt to handle the children or somebody else that's suffering. So I think it's just a real big takeaway that I got out of that interaction, particularly with that empathy and harmony, also being heavy relationship building themes. You can bend over almost too far for others and not take care of yourself.
Definitely.
If you don't mind, I'd like to add to that, because I can see that play out, with me and within my profession as well, where we spend a lot of time setting clear expectations, either as the leader, as the boss, or even as the subordinate, to the leader, to the boss, saying, hey, as my boss, this is what I need from you. This is what I expect from you. This is for me to be successful. This is what I need. And, it also plays into this, the whole, CliftonStrengths process, all right, is really understanding that those people that are on our team and who are working around, and, kind of a word that we've used before is guardrails, right? Is and we set those guardrails so that we can, be successful working together.
Yeah. So,
Marisol, did you have anything to add before we move on?
No, I think that all makes a lot of sense. I was just thinking about this theme of thinking, sort of also putting yourself in the focus, or sort of, you have to take care of that. There's something definitely that I hadn't till now not been thinking about, that is something that can come from that theme, that is something that I know very well, also putting myself last, and but not being aware of that. It's not like I do lots of stuff for everybody but where am I? But then I get into this exhaustion state sometimes, and I always think, why? I haven't done anything, but this is that basically what it is, and I'm becoming more aware of that. And thanks for that insight.
Yeah, excellent. So we've approached some pretty heavy parts of this adaptability thing. I really appreciate both of you being so open with your own lived experiences around adaptability. One of the other exercises Jen and I have always involved in these podcasts is for those that either might be trying to understand it, those that might be trying to live with somebody or work with somebody with adaptability. We as human beings can often be much more visual learners. And so I'm just wondering if there's any sort of imagery or household objects or pop culture references that you might want to throw out as sort of a representative of this theme. We've, as I just said, we've used everything from pop culture in some of our previous episodes to household objects. But I'm just curious, Marisol, I'd like to come to you first and see if there's a particular image that comes to mind for you when you think about your adaptability theme.
To me, it's really it's this water theme, and as in the Gallup description, the go with the flow. For me, it's really the river that where the water flows, and where there's more space, it sort of widens, and where there's less space, it sort of merges, and it gets faster, and it slows down, and all this adapts to whatever comes up. And that's basically, I think, the picture that I referred to. And there's one other fun one, but Josh is going to say that one.
Now I'm wondering which one that is.
Don't say it, I say it.
If I don't. So, the water, what I picture is a surfer on a wave. Nice. The wave is ever changing. There's not always consistency in a wave, and what the surfer does is it gets on the wave, on the water, and it actually rides that wave, and all the moves and all the flow and all the motion is being adapted to that movement of the water, right? When I was a kid, I grew up riding skateboards and surfboards, and skateboarding to me was very consistent because you look at terrain, the terrain doesn't change. Right. But when you get in the water, it's always changing, and you have to adapt to that. So that was kind of the water part of it for me as well. But I think the one that the more I think about it is being adaptable. It's like you're a block of tofu, right?
That's the foodie in me. That's what's fun.
I was just gonna say the Food Network person is gonna come out on that one.
Yeah, like Food Network. What would you do with tofu? Right? Well, like what do I want it to taste like? Do I want it to taste like chicken, or do I want it to taste like green beans, or And so that tofu.
Just cut it out. Just sort of. Don't eat it then.
So I keep seeing this block of tofu too.
Nice.
Question: is it the silk tofu or this other sort of rougher one?
Oh, it depends on what you're making, right? I like the extra firm if I'm trying to make something like a chicken. Soft tofu if I'm mixing it into like an oatmeal or something like that.
So great. I really liked Marisol and Josh both talking about water, because that's exactly where I went to with it. Yeah. And after listening to them talk about how their adaptability works, and it's that like work harder, not, or work smarter, not harder kind of
Yep.
motion. And that's what water does. It doesn't look for like going over giant boulders, it goes around it. You know, like we see that in bridges. I've been around, I was on the Colorado River a couple of days ago, and just watching the mass of the river coming downtown and bending and moving around the columns that were, you know, holding up the bridge. It's just, it's amazing to think of that and us as people and how we bend and flow to what's needed in those around us. So I love the river idea.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sticking with that one.
if you say it that way, it's also, it shows how much impact this theme also has.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good call. Yeah. Definitely.
So the guy with number 29 adaptability is going to throw out sort of a different image. It does still have to go with flexing, but I'm going to throw out the image of an improv actor. So you think about here, at least here in the States, you've got places like Second City, where, you know, has inspired a lot of the comedians that end up showing up on Saturday Night Live. But just the ability to take what others feed them, whether it's objects or the next line. Some of you might also be familiar with the show Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is a real, you know, very improv driven show. So it's just, that was something else that I got thinking of as we were talking about adaptability and rereading the description of the theme. So a non-water one for those of you that maybe aren't keen on getting out on surfboards and flown down a river. So
it's a good one though, because even the improv actors, they have to play off of one another. So it's
Right.
again bringing that relationship, you know,
Yep.
piece to it. So yeah, I think it's great.
It's interesting that you brought that up because that's always been one of those skills or talents that I've never had like that. Oh, I'm like, how do these people do that? I want to do that. My communication is number 33.
There you go.
Well, there are different themes impacting your ability to get out and do that, but you know,
that's right.
but wonderful images for all of us to consider. As we also think about, you know, we've talked about sort of the personal side. We also know that we're always interacting with others, and we've already started to talk about some of those relationships. I want to switch it over a little bit to thinking about workplace teams or teams that we're part of, and think about what sort of advice you would give to a team member or a team leader that might, how that team leader or peer might help somebody with adaptability kind of come out of that raw application. And we talked about what themes you use individually to, you know, come out of the rabbit hole. But if a team leader saw you going full tilt with your adaptability, what would be helpful for you? Or is there a theme that you'd want them to use of their own to help you come out of that that raw or rabbit hole sort of behavior? And Josh, I'm going to go to you first.
So I already touched on this a little bit, but I'll try to expand on it a little bit more. So for me, for my boss, if I'm kind of going down that rabbit hole, it's really, I need clear expectations set from him. I need those guardrails set, whether it's a specific date of completion or, you know, like I need you to be, you know, in this place, in this time, and in your, you know, the best version of yourself, you know, right here. Just really clear expectations really helps me. And I think that's also because my responsibility kicks in and goes, okay, my boss is going to do this. You know, one example is, you know, technology is not huge for me. I lived off of paper calendars. If I even took notes or, you know, put dates, and within our world, we use an Outlook calendar. And, you know, so one of the things that my boss has said is, I need you to use your Outlook calendar. Like I need it tracked digitally, you know, what your day looks like, what your week looks like. And so him giving me that clear expectation and really being firm about it and saying, this is what I need from you. So really guardrails and expectations are, you know, what I need.
Nice.
Great.
Marisol, anything to add, or a different look at how a team leader might pull somebody out of
Yeah.
the rabbit hole?
To me, it's really, and this is what I experience also with my wife. We work well together when she does it, and when she doesn't, we don't get anywhere. It's really sort of keeping focus, priorities, reminding of the direction we're going. What do we actually want to achieve, and making sure following up and making sure that the stuff that I talked about last week or the week before, that it doesn't sort of fall off the schedule, that it's sort of forgotten. And it's interesting because I had a talk today with a colleague that he has adaptability high, and he told me about a coworker. He said, I go into meetings and I have meet people and I have all these ideas, and what I do now, because I don't sit down and I write it down, I give a voice message, and she sort of she listens to that, and then she writes down the notes, and it's all there, and I know that she will follow up. Like if I say I'm going to meet this guy again, she puts it all in. So that, I thought, is a really great system for somebody with adaptability.
Nice.
Yeah, because it's sort of right there and then it's fresh, and somebody else needs to process this in some way.
Yeah.
So and really and to have this, somebody to me needs somebody to where I know the things that need to be done are not forgotten, because I forget them, even if I write them down somewhere.
Sure.
Excellent.
Sure.
So then also thinking about, again, this theme in team dynamics, are there certain blind spots that you have become aware of? So they're maybe less blind spotty for you, but somebody that is just getting to know their adaptability theme, are there blind spots that leaders or peers can help watch out for? Sort of be that rear view mirror of watching the space that you can't, and again, how to help address that. Marisol, I'm going to come to you first for this one.
Well, the one thing is really for me, the blind spot was for a long time, to realize not everybody is as flexible, adaptable,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
sort of that not everybody is like that. Yeah. So if I come up there and for me it's all very easy. I always have this example of, if people come up like a surprise visit, even with, I don't know, children and dogs or whatever, I said, "Oh, hi, welcome." Yeah. And my wife looks at me and she says, "Are you crazy?" Yeah. So this is like, why? It's like totally normal. And then of course I act that way also. Like, I think if I show up somewhere without sort of lots of preparation, I basically expect everybody to say, well, this is the best idea that ever happened. And to be aware that is not always like that. And sort of this last minute approach. And also this other idea of really, and I said this in the beginning, I have this very colorful way and done many different things and so on, and changed course. And being honest, I would say also sometimes I just took something like the easy way out. Like if it became too difficult, or there were like larger challenges that I sort of was too lazy or were too challenging, whatever it is, and I just said, I'll do something else. And to be aware of, is it just an easy way out, or is it something that I really want to do this way? Becoming more aware of that, because I think for adaptability with that theme, the attraction of easy way out, because there's always like, you go out and you know that whatever the new way is, you're going to manage that. And sometimes to stay on track and master that challenge is sometimes the bigger achievement. And for me, for example, I'm now also, I'm in this city now, I think now 12 years, which I've never ever been anywhere for such a long time. And this is something also for me, a big achievement, sort of not to, I'm just going to move on and do something else. So also the coaching business, I've been doing it for many years now, which is something that, so that is something that I would always be aware of. Is it just chickening out, or What are we talking about?
Yeah.
I think one of the images, and I do want to hear from you, Josh, and just saying, one of the images that I thought was really powerful that I came away with from our pre-show was, going back to that image of a river. The water wants to flex around the big boulder in the middle, but really the big boulder is the thing that needs to be addressed. And I think that
Right.
blending of what you're talking about with that imagery was super powerful for me coming out of yesterday. Of sometimes you just need to get the water to push the boulder down the river, and tackle the big thing, right? Instead of just finding, oh, there's this little outlet over here, and go around the rock. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Josh, A, would you add anything? And B, is there something else that you have found to be a sort of a blind spot that, maybe a team member or team leader has helped you identify and address? And, just as others learn how they can manage theirs a little bit better.
I think that managing this, a lot of times it comes down to being vulnerable, right? Vulnerability. And I'll use the example that I had a coworker who's a longtime friend that I asked very specific questions to in an effort to improve my own ability to lead, to being a new company officer. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so what I've always tried to do is kind of surround myself with people that I give them the opportunity to tell me what they see. I want you to be honest. I want you to tell me, like, what do you see in me? What do you see in my decision making? What do you see in, how I interact with people? And then being willing to accept the feedback from them, and then look at that and go, okay, how can I use that information to improve myself? So really just, being vulnerable. And, it's tricky too, because sometimes you ask the wrong person. And if you don't have the right relationship established, maybe that's just damaging information that it's like, okay, it wasn't productive. So it's building relationships with the right people, who you can ask the right questions to, that are going to help you use that talent, or develop that talent, and say, okay, I'm highly adaptable. Here's the pros, but from what I'm hearing from my coworkers, from my peers, is that I can be perceived as this. And then so, making the changes to not be perceived that way, because that might not be what, if somebody says, oh, you have trouble making decisions. So no, I'm not having trouble making the decision. I can just see more than one right outcome from this. And I want to do what's right for the community. I want to do what's right for the person. I want to do what's right for me. How do you, it's putting all those things together.
Yeah.
So be vulnerable.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Last one, and we'll make this sort of maybe a popcorn answer, because I think you've already struck on so many of the best contributions of this theme. Is there a particular best contribution you think that this theme makes to a team? You've talked a lot about how it contributes to your personal success and your personal achievements. How does this theme come into a team dynamic and provide its best? Josh.
So I believe that having somebody that's highly adaptable on a team can bring a level of calm, of comfort. I think that one thing that most humans probably need is some level of control in their life, right? It's like, I need to have something that I can do, that I can have control of. And when we start losing control in our life, to have that person that can adapt to the change and be comfortable in that, and be able to sit in that space and be okay. I think that the teammates around that person can go, okay, like, we're going to be okay. Right. So
Nice.
It's almost, it brings comfort, I believe.
Yeah.
Nice. Marisol, what do you think the best contribution of this theme is to a team?
Now it's my turn to say ditto.
Ditto.
I would say the same. I think it's sort of this welcoming and being able to really handle a lot of diversity, and with this sort of non-judgmental approach, welcoming all different ways that people can be and show up, and the ability to manage emotions, sort of to not be afraid, have an own ability to manage emotions, and with that, and that ties into what Josh said. If there's sort of there's others where there's like excitement, or there's lots of friction, or anything coming up where some people say, oh, this guy is sort of very excited, or it's mad, or whatever, and having this ability to say, okay, this is just happening now, and let's just sort of see what comes out of it. What can I add to that to calm the situation down, and not be afraid of other people's emotions.
Beautiful contributions.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much for
so good.
highlighting those. That as someone with deliberative and responsibility, and I know Jen can resonate with this, having a plan and knowing what's going to happen is kind of core to who we are. But we need people like you in our lives, and to make it okay to be understanding of change, and that some things need to roll. And so I really appreciate you highlighting that for others. Jen, you want to keep us moving?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next section I want to talk about really is this like recognition and support. So we know that all of our talents want to receive recognition and support in a certain way. So I was wondering, as coaches with the adaptability theme, if you can share with us, if a leader were to give you recognition, is there a specific way that you would like to receive that for your adaptability theme? It's kind of a different one, right?
What do you want us to answer now?
Let me answer from the introvert. I'm actually very introverted, and it's really just how my batteries are, charged versus drained.
Right.
So, like, how I want to be recognized is very quiet.
Okay.
But when I am recognized, it is also, it's exciting. It's to say, hey, you were able to work through this process. You were able to be a change agent. We appreciate that, for our team. For me, it's just that verbal recognition that I'm seen for some of the strengths that I have. And so I think that really somebody recognizing that word of adaptability, right? And it keeps going back to this whole concept of CliftonStrengths. Like, if I could, hang this report on my door, and somebody could walk in and go, okay, I see that adaptability theme, and I see how that played out well. And if they use that word and said, hey, I really appreciate how highly adaptable you were to that changing situation that we had. To me, that would be meaningful. It would be impactful.
Awesome.
Nice.
Marisol.
Yeah, I would probably say the same. Just sort of that it is seen at all, and also to make me aware of it. Because this is, like, to me, so natural. I don't think about it, and this is what we always have, especially in our top 5. It's like, it's just a normal whatever. It's the appreciation that it is something special, like all others, but this is like, and that it is seen, that it is a distinction. And I would then say also the question then, and what do you need? And that is something, the what do you need question is an interesting question, because mostly I would say I have no idea. And then not sort of letting go, but sort of keeping at it and say, what do you need?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Go ahead, Chad.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's eye-opening for me, because somebody, it's starting to strike me in context of the rest of our conversation of somebody with adaptability is like, well, what recognition do you want to give me, right? You're gonna flex to whatever they're offering. I think that's really important, that the leader or the peer keep saying, well, how do you want me to recognize you, or how do you want me to support you? That is in a way special and unique to you, and I don't want you to bend over and just tell me, anything will do. I think that's a really wise insight for people to consider. And so that was what I was gonna reflect on. Jen, did you have similar thoughts?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, surprise me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you like surprises, right? Yeah, because you guys like these changing environments. What I loved from hearing from you there too was that that we almost don't remember that these are our superpowers, you know, because they are so normal and we're using them every day, and like you said, you guys both are dealing with these changing environments all the time. Things change, people change, and you're like, yeah, just going with the flow. But to someone like Chad and I, we would tend to be a little more rigid to these changes coming to us, might need a lot more lead in to, like, hey, tomorrow is going to be a rough day. I don't think you'd see Chad or I in a firefighting situation where we're just like quickly responding to something, you know, to changing things. But it's wonderful to be able to understand and see and recognize the glory of your talents and being able to bend and move and adjust instead of being stuck and rigid, and then maybe not knowing where to. Chad and I talked a lot about that in our deliberative episode, not almost being frozen in fear, not knowing what the right decision is yet because we don't have enough information, there's too much risk. And so just see, from my perspective as a heavily deliberative person, I'm going to say for Chad and I that seeing your abilities to be able to adapt to these changing environments is really wonderful. And I love that you brought that up, that sometimes we don't see our own talents as they are. So yeah, thank you for that.
So
On that note,
yeah.
I want to talk about encouragement and support. So as someone with adaptability and having maybe even leaders or peers be able to support and encourage you, what are some things that you would like from those around you for encouragement and support? Marisol, I want to start with you. This is adaptability at its finest.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like, what? I would really say, I don't know, it's this bring on the change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring on the change. Bring on some. For me, if it's too predictable, if it's too structured, if it's too, I've done the same things too often, it just gets boring, and I don't have the and I'm not at my best. So I would just say, yeah, bring me some change, something new that I can handle.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. Josh?
I think this one is challenging for me to answer because I have consistency sitting right next to adaptability.
Oh yeah.
I can
I
look
don't know
at
how that works, by the way.
That's a whole other episode right there.
That's a whole other show we'll do.
and, you know, so I like things to be consistent, but as soon as they change, I'm okay with it. You know, and I think it's more of just an awareness of, right, the you know, your teammates, your friends, your family, to understand that being adaptable can come out in multiple ways. It can come out as a positive, it can come out as a negative. You know, into the positive, it's like everything's good, right? But I think it's kind of understanding in those negative times where it's like, oh man, like, let's see, I could do this 5 different ways. Which one?
Yeah.
You know, so maybe if there is somebody that you know, that is much more consistent, should go, okay, we need to start right here. And I would go, okay, that's perfect. Let's start there. And then let's have all these other plans. So really just, I think it's just an understanding of, right, that somebody has this theme, and really getting to know that person and to see how does that theme play out in them, because it's going to be a little bit different in each of us because of the dynamics of, you know, of the themes.
Awesome. I keep sitting here, just my learner is number one and is just soaking all this in. So my apologies if I'm a little quiet as I'm just listening. I would like to applaud your adaptability in spending so much time with us. I'm looking at the clock, and this has probably got a little longer than we had scheduled for. So I want to bring us in for a landing here. You spent so much wonderful quality time with us and our listeners. As we close out this episode, I'm curious if each of you might have one or two things fairly briefly that you would really want to make sure that if listeners, especially if they've gotten to this point, really take away from the show and understanding adaptability. And so, Josh, I'm going to come to you first to see what sort of your two key takeaways that you'd really want to hammer home for somebody trying to understand this theme, whether it's for themselves or understanding somebody close to them.
Yeah, I hope this is going to kind of answer the question or kind of speak to what we're talking about. But one of the things that Marisol said earlier was when we're talking about judgment and I don't know if this is the right word, but I think Marisol, you said something like it's neutral, right? It's not positive, it's not negative. It's just an understanding of. And for some reason, that neutral word really resonated with me, and kind of in that adaptability. I looked at it and went, okay, being adaptable, it doesn't mean something is good or bad. It just means that you're able to change. And what I think that means is we can make that change be a positive. So I don't know if that's really kind of speaking to what you're saying, but that's really what's coming out in me is be adaptable. Like, it really gives us that opportunity to take something and look at the positive, look at the good in the person, look at the good in the product, look at the good in the system, right? And just really shift and be part of the positive.
Yeah, change
Nice.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one great takeaway. Were there any others you want to add before I go to Marisol?
I think like everything we talked about was just, it was spot on. And I could really feel like, what Marisol was saying. It's like, yes. And mine is a little bit different. But it was really nice to be on here with somebody else that is kind of in that same place and kind of responds, reacts, thinks, feels, maybe behaves very similar to the way that I do based on, some of my themes.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing. Marisol, I want to hear your two key takeaways.
My adaptability would throw it back at you guys. What were your key takeaways? It's basically that. Also, I would say this, really, if you have change happening in your life and in your company and wherever, look out for people with high adaptability to help you manage this with confidence and calmness. Sort of that is something I think, especially when I was hearing you before, Jan, about sort of what you both need. It's like we need to have the people of adaptability really shine in these change environments, and that's what we have at the moment in the world, in our lives, all the time. That's the only constant that we have, is the change. So look out for that adaptability people around you. That would be one thing that I just came up.
Excellent. And since my harmony can't let go of the fact that you tossed it back to us, I think the I think the highlight that really struck me is this whole change brings energy, brings forward momentum. Sort of, I almost, given my analytical too, it almost came out to me as an equation. It's the change plus energy equals the forward momentum. That was really striking to me, and I think it's really powerful for people to understand, because there are a lot of us that don't derive energy from change. To your last point. Yeah. So that's my takeaway. Jen, in fairness, I'm going to see if there's any key takeaway that you want to drop in on this.
There are so many. With adaptability at 7, I felt like you guys were describing things that I've done my whole life and didn't understand that was adaptability that was causing that to happen. I think my one big one was that understanding that even with my responsibility and my achiever, when someone asks me for something and they mean something to me, I'm totally fine to put everything else off and take care of whatever it is that they need. So realizing that that's that adaptability in me, it is my first relationship building strength in my top 10. So now I'm understanding why that happens so often, where I'm just bending to the whim of whoever's maybe the loudest at this point. And the other one that I really loved was that Marisol like kind of validated my, I don't need to know what's happening in the next 5 years. I don't have to have a plan to keep moving forward and actually get somewhere, that it's not absolutely necessary. And maybe with me and my grouping of talents, that's why that's been so difficult for me in the past. So just, being validated personally, those were some of the key things that I heard from you guys that I just really have loved and enjoyed this show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to thank both of you again. I know we keep saying thank you, but to have fellow coaches on and invest time to create this with us, it means a lot to us. We really appreciate both the depth you've given to this, but also
Yes.
the summary points that you just highlighted. I'm sure our listeners and or their significant people around them will appreciate the insights you've shared today. So I'm going to essentially sort of end our show there. Jen and I'd like to just briefly mention to our listeners out there that if you've liked this episode, we encourage you to leave a review, leave a comment, maybe even add your 2 cents to what Josh and Marisol have offered, and obviously subscribe to whichever listening platform. We're both on Acast for our podcast and YouTube for video, so you can see all 4 of us have this awesome conversation.
And if you want to get in touch with us or our guests, you're able to find their contact information in the show notes for either the podcast or on our YouTube channels. And finally, of course, you can always get in touch with us through those as well.
Yep. So until next time, I'm Chad Ahern from Talent Teams Consulting, encouraging you to keep playing to your strengths.
And I'm Jen Werner of Jen Werner Coaching, encouraging you to be uniquely you.
And with that, we wish everybody a great day. Talk to you soon.